And we've got a very talented guest today. His name's Tim Jacobus.
Hi, how's it going, AJ?
Man, I hope I didn't mess up pronouncing your name.
AJ, you got it right. That's it. It's Jacobus.
And if you've never heard of Tim, he's a sick artist, and he made all the cover art for all the Goosebumps books back in the 90s with R.L. Stine, who happened to write all the Goosebumps books, if you guys don't know. And I'm a huge fan, and it's an honor to have you as my first guest on my show. And I just want to say thanks.
No problem, AJ.
And I'm going to try my best not to fan out since I'm a huge fan. And I'm going to try my best to stick to the questions.
That's cool.
So, Tim, did you do every single Goosebumps cover for the original series, all 64?
The way that worked, AJ, is I did them all except for two. I didn't do book number 2, Stay Out of the Basement. And I think it was book number 9, Be Careful What You Wish For. The story behind me not doing book number 2 was they were unsure that I was going to be. They had narrowed it down to 2 guys as the possible Goosebumps book illustrators. I did book number 1, and another guy named Jim Thiessen did book number 2. And they wanted to, just see them in full print before they made their final decision on who would be going forward. Understand that at that point, we thought that the Goosebumps series as illustrators was only going to be 4 books, right? Because they had said, hey, we have 4 books in the series right now. There might be more. But, so it wasn't like there was this wicked competition going on. So, I put mine together. He put his together. And what I was told years later was they liked the saturated colors that I used. And they thought that kind of took the edge off the series. They were looking for something that was going to be a little bit scary, but, being too scary was a concern. So they thought that the use of the oranges, the reds, the yellows, and the greens would just tone it down just a little bit.
Wow. Well, I'm really glad that Scholastic chose to go with you, and you and R.L. Stine were a dream team, and I really couldn't see this happening any other way. My next question is, did you design the original Goosebumps logo that had the small bumpy text on the front covers that we're all familiar with?
No, I didn't. That was designed by somebody at Scholastic. I don't know the full story behind it, but I know that they were looking to do something that had that, classic 50s, 60s, horror type stuff that you would see in the movie theaters. And I'm not sure who did it, but they really hit it right on the mark.
Yeah, that was a slimy, oozy looking logo. Also, did you design the border outline and choose which 2 colors those outside borders would be for each book?
No. Nope, I had. Yeah, I was just. I did the original art. The original art was 20 inches by 20 inches. It was acrylic on illustration board. But when I turned it in, they had a full group of people, art directors, production people, who made the decisions on what colors they would lift from the paintings to then to use as the border, the drippy border, and then what would be the color behind the Goosebumps logo.
Nice. So do you own your own artwork? And did you work as a freelance artist when you made the original Goosebumps books, or was it kind of a work for hire kind of thing? What was it?
They were not quite work for hire, but I do not have the pieces of art anymore. Scholastic asked if they could keep them, and we worked it out financially so that they would pay me a little more in order for them to hang on to them. As far as I know, from what I understand, that all the Goosebumps books are somewhere in a warehouse in New York City. They are safe. There was a rumor for a while that back during Hurricane Sandy that there was a flood and that possibly something happened to them. But I've been reassured that that's not what happened. It's just a myth, and all the Goosebumps book covers are still safe.
Yeah, that's some good news right there. I would definitely love to see the original paintings.
I would too. It's been a lot of years now. Some of those paintings I did back in the early 90s, and I haven't seen them since the day I turned them in. It would be nice to have them to break them out one time and, maybe put them in a show or something. And yeah, I would go to my own show.
I would too, and I bet a bunch of us kids who grew up in the 90s to Goosebumps would love to see something like that happen. And when I work as a sound designer or a sound editor, sometimes I understand that a client may or may not like a certain sound that I created for them, and they would want it to be replaced. Was there ever a time where R.L. Stine or Scholastic didn't like one of your ideas and totally scrapped one of your completed covers? Was there ever a time like that?
No, I was very lucky. Keep in mind that over the years I've done, about 300 book covers. So I've done, a couple of hundred more book covers that weren't Goosebumps. I've done about 100 that were. There are 62 originals, then the Goosebumps Series 2000, and then there were special edition pieces. But I have had that problem with other clients and other jobs. But in the Goosebumps series, we just seem to be hitting it, right on the mark most of the time. The only one standout that comes to mind, and it really was a minor issue, in the Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes. If you look at the cover, it's the two lawn gnomes, and there's the flamingos and the globe, and they're just standing there, and the gnome in the back is scratching the side of his head. And in the original painting, I had him picking his nose. And they looked at it. Everybody thought it was funny, but they were like, let's not go there. That's a little gross. So they had me repaint his finger, so now it's on the side of his head. So really, that's the most dramatic thing that they ever had me change. Keep in mind, I did sketches. There was always sketches that were turned in, 3 different versions. They would pick one, and so there was a method to it. So you kind of avoid those bad situations where somebody doesn't really like it, and you have to do it all over again.
Gotcha. Did you create art at home, or did you work alone, or did you have a team with you? What was your process?
I worked at home for 20 years. I no longer do that. I work at a studio now as a freelancer, and I still work at obviously I still work here as well. But during those years, it was just me, and I worked at home, and I had contact with the people at Scholastic. I worked with a lot of really good art directors and creative people over there, and got up in the morning, went to work, and did my art, and we did it until dinner time, and that's what we did every day for quite a while.
So this is part 2 of the interview with Tim Jacobus, and here's a quick picture of me with my whole Goosebumps collection. It's all 62 of the original books, like the originals. I think there was a reprint of the original series that also featured your artwork, but it had a different slimy, dripping border.
Yes.
And I'm on the phone, and I still can't believe I'm on the phone with the legend that created them all.
I was impressed when you sent the picture, and I saw the whole array of Goosebumps paraphernalia that you have there, because, just taking a quick glance, I'm pretty sure you have more stuff than I do, so that's pretty impressive.
Wow.
And the other thing that's cool is, you got that a long time ago, and you're still hanging on to it. That never, that never ceases to amaze me. That people are, they still are, enamored by the Goosebumps stuff.
Man, this stuff is classic, and it's becoming timeless. Really, that's how I feel.
Yeah, it's starting to feel that way. Here we are 20-something years later, and, there's a movie out, and people are going to see it. It's not, it's not a toss-off. It's a real movie. So, yeah, I'm starting to get on board with you that this may be timeless.
For sure. I've got a few more questions left, and I'm going to ask away. Who are some of your favorite influences growing up as a kid that really got you into art?
Art influences, the main guy was an illustrator named Roger Dean. Roger Dean did all the album covers for a band called Yes. He did a lot of other ones, but the band Yes was where he got his, that's where people became the most familiar with him. The guy was amazing. Did these surrealistic landscapes. He also used his colors very interestingly. And when I was in high school, I just loved his stuff. When I was in school at that time, albums were, that was the way we listened to music. Album covers that was the art gallery of the day. And we would sit there and look at our album covers, while we're listening to music for hours and hours. And I just studied his work. I used to copy it. And there's a lot of influence from Roger Dean in my artwork. You mentioned East from the East.
Yeah, that was a sick cover.
There's elements in there that are dead on, that are truly Roger Dean influenced.
Nice. So you mentioned that you worked while having music in the background. What kind of music did you like?
Yeah, I'm a prog guy. I always liked prog rock.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier stuff, like I said, Yes was one of my favorite bands. Currently, I listen to Steven Wilson, Porcupine Tree. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I always liked that larger music, that would kind of meander around. It's great music to paint to. Those classic Yes albums where there were two songs on it, one on one side, one on the other, and you would just kind of get lost in the music, and I could get lost in my paintings.
That's cool. Well, I'm really excited about us collaborating in some point in the future on the lost levels of music. Have you had a chance to listen to any of my music?
I have. You sent me some links. I took a listen to it. It's very cool. I mean, that is somewhat up the alley of what I listen to.
Right on. So we all know that you did 60 of the 62 original Goosebumps book covers, but did you design the artwork for Choose Yourself and Goosebumps 2000?
I did all the covers for Goosebumps Series 2000. The Give Yourself Goosebumps, I did one of them. I did the very first one. I don't remember what it was called, but it had a picture of it was like a zoo, and there was an alligator on it. You'll have to look it up. I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, I definitely got to look it up again too myself.
Yeah, because what was happening at that point, I think they gave those covers to another illustrator named Mark Nagata. He did them for a while, and I wanted to do them, but I think they were getting a little bit afraid that I was doing too much stuff. So if, let's say, I got sick, now multiple book series are in jeopardy. So I think it was in their best interest to kind of spread it around a little.
Yeah, I remember towards the end of the original 62 book series, there was Choose Yourself coming out at the same time, and a series 2000. So I can understand why they separated the artwork. I remember looking at some of the covers, and then I would always find your name there. It would say T. Jacobus, and then it would say a year name, and I'm assuming that was the year it was made.
Correct.
And then sometimes it was hard to find, but you would eventually find it. But sometimes you couldn't find your name at all. Like in book number 7, The Night of the Living Dummy, were they always there, or was I not able to find them?
So the way it worked, when I first started doing the covers, is like I said, the artwork is about 20 inches by 20 inches, and I always signed my name, and it was. On that 20 by 20 image, it was probably 3 inches across. It was an average size signature, but then you're reducing it down and you're putting it on the book cover. And we started to get fan mail saying, hey, that's really cool the way you're hiding your name on the covers. We love looking for it. So once I realized, oh, this is kind of a game, then I started to really try to hide my name wherever I could. Now, there's a diminishing return on that. I can make it so hidden that no one ever finds my name on there. Now, that's not very good. That's not very good marketing on my part. So, I would try to hide it somewhat. Now, in certain cases, they crop the artwork differently. Like they would zoom in, and my signature would then fall outside the crop, and it would really no longer be on the book cover. So that's why once in a while, my name's not there. You could keep looking forever and ever, and it's not there because it fell outside.
That makes sense.
It's underneath the drippy blob frame, let's put it that way.
For anyone who works in the creative business, we all understand that there's time restraints and certain projects need to be handed in a certain time. I think I remember you mentioning that A Night in Terror Tower was kind of rushed. And honestly, when I look at it, it doesn't seem like a rush job at all to me. It just looks amazing. It looks just like all your other covers. And most of the time, the book business isn't like advertising. When you're doing advertising illustrations, you're usually under a very, very tight deadline. Yeah, the book publishing business is quite organized. They put their stuff out on a human pace, and so they would give me ample time. But in order to make a living, you have to do multiple covers at the same time over the course. They gave you a month. The average time was once. R.L. Stine was writing those books once a month, so I was producing the covers at the same pace. I was also doing other jobs at the same time. So that's why the Night in Terror Tower, I kind of ran into a crunch, had a couple of jobs going on, a couple of jobs got delayed, and there was additional changes made to some of those other jobs. So when it came down to the time to do the cover for Terror Tower, where I normally would get, a week of painting time on there, about 30 hours was the average time for doing a Goosebumps cover. With Terror Tower, I ran out, and I had basically one day. I had a 24-hour period. Wow. Got up in the morning, started to painted all day, painted into the night, painted through the night, finished it up the next morning, hopped in my car, and drove it to Manhattan and delivered the painting, so it was there on time. So, when I look at the painting, I remember very vivid spots in it where it's like, well, I would like to do this in this little area right here, but I don't have time, so I'm going to have to just kind of turn the corner on this one and get it out there. But it really was, it got the same amount of time, nearly. Like I said, average time was 30 hours. I had 24. It's just it was 24 in a row. That's really the only difference. So I heard you saying that after you finished the cover, you would drive to the studio to deliver it. So, what was your process?
I did it that day because it was due that morning. Correct. In that particular case, if artwork is due on Monday morning, you got to deliver the art on Monday morning. That's one of the things about being a successful illustrator. It's, doing a good job is one thing, but doing it on time is paramount. It's as important as doing good work. So most of the time I didn't have to drive the pieces in. Now, keep in mind, I'm only 50 miles from New York City, so it's not a terrible thing to have to go to the city at any given time. Most of the time I delivered my paintings down the street to the Federal Express, and FedEx would deliver them. FedEx closed at 7:30, so if I'm not done at 7:30, I'm going to be the guy taking it in. So most of the time, standard shipping was all I had to do.
Interesting. So some of my favorite Goosebumps covers were Bad Hair Day, The Beast from the East, Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns, The Haunted Mask 2. I thought they were all amazing. They just stood out so much from anything else that was out at the time. What were some of your favorites out of the whole bunch?
Yeah, I like Bad Hair Day too. That was a lot of fun because usually a little bunny rabbit is a cute and
follow the white rabbit.
Popping out of the hat is a very cute image, and that guy is just that's a bad looking animal right there.
Yeah, that album cover definitely stood out as a kid. Were all the original Goosebumps made by paintbrushing and airbrushing?
Yes. The original pieces were all done with acrylic paint. I also used airbrush to give it that, that smooth, polished look, and standard, paintbrush, 20 inches by 20 inches. Acrylic paint was the what I preferred because acrylic paint dries really fast. I had friends who worked in oil paint, but you'd have to be very careful in shipping because oil paint, can take a long time to dry, where the acrylic paint really only takes minutes. And I even painted, while I painted, in my right hand would be my paintbrush, and in my left hand would be a hairdryer. And wow. I would be constantly drying the paint to, I wanted it dry in seconds. So the sooner it was dry, the sooner I could put my hands back on it and keep on working.
Did you ever feel like after watching a Goosebumps TV episode that the director or producer did a good or bad job representing the creatures or the monsters that you made for the Goosebumps covers?
Yeah, I always thought that was cool. I mean, there's something about that because, I'm just pulling stuff out of my imagination and getting it down on paper, and it's just for that. It's a single one-time image. So when they're then taking that and trying to turn that into some sort of three-dimensional live creature, it's cool. At no point was it not cool, or was I disappointed? There's no way I could be disappointed in it. It was really neat to see them come to life.
So the new Goosebumps movie just came out, and were you asked to be involved with the movie in one way or another? They started production on the movie a couple of years back, and I had heard that they were getting it together, and Jack Black was going to be in it, and I thought that was cool, and it was going to be great. Then I heard that they finished the live shooting, and then they were going to spend a good amount of time doing all the 3D modeling of all the creatures, and at that point I still wasn't contacted, so I figured that they, like the TV show, they really didn't need me. So yeah, they did.
I thought I wasn't going to have anything to do with the movie. But then when they were getting ready to wrap it up, they decided to do some stuff with the credits.
Yeah, I really love the credits.
The way the movie ends. What's that?
I really love the credits, the tribute.
Yeah, well, that's just it. It ended up being this huge thing, and I didn't, they just kept telling me, oh, wait till you see it. Wait till you see it. This is really cool. This is really cool. And I didn't know what they were talking about. The thing that I did was, at the end of the movie, Jack Black turns to the camera and screams, and he quickly morphs and turns into a Goosebumps cover. It's only on the screen for about a second, but I did that artwork. So there's what looks like a Goosebumps cover with Jack Black's face on it in a real Goosebumps color scheme environment. So that was the original piece that I did for the movie itself. But then they went ahead and during the closing credits, AJ, you went and saw the movie?
Yeah, I saw the movie. I'm going to definitely watch it again just to catch the ending.
Yeah, so, they then took the old Goosebumps covers and they pulled them apart and were able to make short animations. So now the covers, the original covers are come to life. It's amazing. It was just so cool to see. I had no idea that it was going to happen. They didn't tell me. They just kept telling me something cool is going to happen. So when I was at the movie theater 2 weekends ago, that was the first time I saw it. It was very neat.
Yeah, I remember seeing towards the end, they showed the Abominable Snowman of Pasadena, the picture that you made, and then a second later, there was like a slightly different version of it, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, and and now he's shaking the pole and he's moving around, and that was just,
It was amazing.
it was great.
Yep.
Like the whole closing credits is nothing more than a tribute to the original covers.
Most definitely. And is there anything else that you would like to share with us? Something that you're working on, or something we could expect from you in the future?
There's. I can tell you that there's 2 more pieces of artwork that are coming out that are a pure throwback to the original art.
That's sick.
There is a movie soundtrack that's coming out for the movie, and they're printing it on vinyl. So I was able to do the cover of the vinyl and the 2-page spread that the vinyl opens up into. So in a very short period of time, I can't show you it now, but in a very short period of time, there's going to be some brand new Goosebumps artwork that you can check out.
That's sick. I'm really looking forward to that. And I wanted to wrap this up with saying a few things. When I grew up in the 90s, Goosebumps was like the cool thing to do, read, but when you were a kid. You were the cool kid if you had the books. And I remember rushing down to Venture. There was a store called Venture. I don't know if you remember that, but it was a store like Walmart and Target. And then I would rush there just to buy the latest book. And sometimes they'd be sold out, so I'd rush to the closest store nearby, which was usually a Target. And I'd buy the book from there. And it was always an adrenaline rush to get the newest book. I was actually more excited to see the covers than reading the books. Don't get me wrong, I love the books, but it's the cover art that really made it interesting. And I really think it was the key factor that really made up a kid's mind if they wanted to read the book or not. And I just want to say thank you for all those years of good art. I miss those good old days. I wish I could still go to the store and see some new type of artwork from you. And a lot of my musical creativity comes from just by looking at art. I just get inspired by it. And I want to say thank you for giving me a good eye for great artwork.
AJ, that's way cool. I really appreciate that. I'm sure you can tell by just looking at the art that it was nothing but fun for me as well. And the fact that, this was part of your childhood and you remember it fondly, but here you are, a grown man, and you still keep looking back at this as being something that was fun and still worth talking about is incredibly flattering to me. And I appreciate it from you, and I appreciate it from everybody else who feels that way. It's not lost on me. I want to thank you.
One last thing, Tim. I've got a whole bunch of new questions just after this interview, and hopefully we could speak again on the show again.
Very good.
Well, all right, Tim. Talk to you soon.
All right. You take care, AJ.
Peace out.